Hey, Broncos Country. Mario Vitanzi here. I'm joined by Ryan Edwards because, well, he's probably the only person in all of Broncos Country that can cheer me up at this moment. Um, you might be wondering why I'm wearing these sunglasses, Ryan. Yeah, and it's a valid question. It's because these are my angry sunglasses. And you might be wondering why I'm wearing a Traeger hat. It's not because Traeger is a sponsor, although they should be. It's not because I want to make an ill-advised wood joke. No, not even that, Ryan. Do you want to know why I'm wearing a Traeger hat? Because I'm cooked. And you're the only person, Ryan, that can save me from this pit of misery on which I currently sit. Thank you for joining me. I promise this will maybe be fun. I guess we'll see. This is altitude adjustment.
Hey, Bill, I'm in the mood for a switch up. I hit the function, hit the rose till I hiccup. I hit the stage and leave with money that's a stick up.
Sorry, that was the most depressing start to altitude adjustment in all of its history. And quite frankly, Ryan Edwards deserves better. Ryan freaking Edwards of KOA, the man that is called the greatest thing going in all of Denver sports talk, with the humility and grace to join me tonight simply to calm my ass down. Before we get going, Ryan, how are you doing, man? Thank you so much. It's always such a blessing to see your face and to get to join you and talk ball.
I appreciate the invite. I know that this is Patrick Chiody's spot, so I feel honored that you asked me. Thank you.
I mean, yeah, you're not wearing a snapback and you're not showing off your upper trapezius muscles. But you look just as good, if not marketably better, than Patrick Chiody. So I think that you will fill in. I think you will fill in admirably. Let's just get right into it, Ryan. I'm just going to come right out and say it. I'm mad. I'm mad, and I want to preface it by saying I understand the intrinsic value of retaining the players they did. I do. I really do get that, and I think there's something to it. I understand that they were basically a healthy Bo Nix away from going to the Super Bowl. You want to retain as many players as possible. The way that I view this, Ryan, is Bo Nix is on the rookie contract. You finally have Russell Wilson's contract completely off the books. So you go from the most expensive quarterback room in the NFL to now one of the cheapest. And I get not wanting to overpay free agents. I do. I really do understand everything. But if there is a time to overpay even just a little bit, it's now. This is your window. Maybe the window goes 5 years, Ryan. Maybe it goes 7 years. Realistically, as it stands today, the window is at least through Bo Nix's rookie deal, which is 3 additional years, assuming they pick up the 5th-year option and they do some weird shit with the roster or with the contract. But instead of improving the rooms that gave them the most trouble, instead of making not even a splash, just like a rivet. I just want a little rivet, just a gentle wave. Not a big splash, okay? A skinny guy splash, not a fat guy splash. And we don't even get that. And Mr. Boggins is saying everyone panic. And I'm not even at the panic part because I know this is a good team, and I think this is why I'm so mad. Because they were so close. They were so close last year, and it's this is the time to strike when the iron is hot. We were told that they were going to be aggressive. We were told how much more money that they were going to have. And not only did they just stand pat, the team got worse, Ryan. The team got worse. They retained certain people, but their best free agent, John Franklin Myers, is gone. And yeah, that was predetermined. PJ Locke is now gone. A key part, maybe you don't win that Buffalo game without a PJ Locke. And you have added no players from any other team. Not even a discounted guy. Talk me down, Ryan. You're the only person when I'm reeling that can actively make me feel better. For God's sake, I deliberately wore a Traeger hat so that I could convey that my brain is cooked. So please thaw it out or whatever. Didn't even make sense. My brain doesn't work.
I hear you. I hear you. And I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. So I'll do the best I
No, I'm
can.
sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. Well, first of all, with the Bo Nix contract, I mean, I don't know if this is worse news than everything you just laid out, but it's actually not going to be that many years. Usually, after the third year, if you have your guy, you're going to go ahead and give him that extension because there's no reason to wait that long and make the situation awkward. Most teams, especially first-round quarterbacks, are going to pay their quarterbacks after 3 years, which would be at the end of this year. So that's even narrowing your focus here. I'd say a couple things. First of all, you did give a lot of extensions over the last couple of years. You spent the money projected to be off the books. So everybody's saying, well, Russell Wilson's contract just came off the books. Well, I mean, yeah, technically the dead money did, but you've already spent that. Like, you've been spending that. Luke Wattenberg, DJ Jones, Zach Allen, even Pat Surtain. I mean, these contracts, Quinn Miners, all of these contracts, well, guess what? You were spending into the future with all of them. And the reason why you were able to be so competitive over the last 2 years is because you did that, because you were able to retain a lot of your talent, and you did develop young talent in the process, which is important. But through that entire thing, you're still doing free agency, you're still trying to operate, and there's a reason why when it was announced they were going to take the biggest dead cap in the history of the NFL, most people thought this was going to be a couple of years of bad football. Instead, they were awesome for 2 years. And that's because they spent into the future. So part of the reason we find ourselves here, and maybe I didn't sell it well enough on KOA. I mean, I imagine there's a lot of people that feel like there's a reframe that probably needed to happen at some point. But you came into this thing with some salary cap. You definitely have some room, and I still think you have some room to do some things. I'm not even saying that that they're done. I don't think they're done. But what you did come into this with was an understanding of, like, we have a bit of a budget. It doesn't mean we can't still find some aggressive spots. Maybe you can make some trades. But reality was, perfect example was Devin Lloyd. Well, Devin Lloyd, $15 million per year. You got two inside linebackers for that same price, but you kind of had to do it that way. You weren't going to pay Devin Lloyd all by himself and then kind of hope you could figure out the other linebacker. You got two guys that can play in your system, and that's why you did that. I viewed the Adam Troutman one as more of a preemptive deal because they had a sense that Cade Otton was going to go back, then Isaiah Likely was going to the Giants, and suddenly that market, sort of shrivels up. Maybe Dallas Goedert still is a possibility if he gets released tomorrow. But the point of it is,
would you not have, really quick, would you not have given Bellinger the contract that he got instead of going after Troutman and retaining him?
I guess it's a little bit eye of the beholder. He got $24 million, 17, I think, guaranteed. I actually probably like Kolar better. If you're asking my opinion, I probably would have kicked the.
I was just about to ask you about him next. Yeah, because he only got $1 more million per year.
Yeah, that would have been more of the contract I would have been interested in, and that player I would have been way more interested in, especially because of his blocking prowess. Like, he's already.
But Ryan, is he the complete tight end that Adam Troutman claims to be?
Well, I mean, that remains to be seen, but he was buried on a depth chart with Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews, so we never really got to see what he's capable of as a pass catcher, but we already know he's a good blocker. So I
appreciate you fielding that question professionally. Well done.
That's okay.
I can't throw you off, man. You're too good.
That probably would have been one of the ones I was more interested in of the options. But again, you did take a run at Travis Etienne. I mean, they legitimately wanted and thought they were going to be in the running for him, and there's multiple teams bidding in on that, and in the end, he wanted to stay in New Orleans, which I think had a little bit heavier lean. I don't think the Broncos were as close as they probably could have been. I think his market was about right. Like, I think what he got from New Orleans was about right, but the Broncos had a number in mind, and they just weren't going over that, and they tend to negotiate that way, whether you like that or not. So I guess, see, for me, a lot of this is more matter of fact. Like this is, in some ways, very much projected. George Payton told us at the Combine what he was going to do. Like, not just to me and Ben. He told everybody, hey, we think Justin Sternot and Alex Singleton are Broncos. We want them back. We love J.K. Dobbins. We want him back. And guess what? They went and got all of them. I think maybe we hoped the GM would lie, but he wasn't lying. He literally was telling us exactly what they were going to do. So the
Were you not
remarkable
able to disclose that then, like publicly before it happened?
was I not able to? I mean, no,
Yeah.
I mean, well, I mean, privately, I talked to him for a while, but I'm saying he told the media, like he said it in front of
Oh, I must
everybody.
have missed that. Okay.
Yeah, he said all of these things in front of everybody. He said, "Hey, we think Alex Single is Justin Sternada Broncos. We're gonna go bring him back."
Maybe I just blocked that out and chalked it up to GM talk. But yeah,
Yeah, and
you're
that's
right.
what
He
I
was
think that's
telling the
what a lot.
truth.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people did. Most people assume that's just GM talk, and you're saying nice things about the guys that were on your team, and but once you say that, it's like, well, yeah, unless a better offer comes around, which I'm not saying that they didn't kick the tires on, but in the end, that those are your options that are right there for you. And then Nate Atkins, all those kinds of contracts. I don't think anybody's surprised by that. Like I said, I still think that they're kicking the tires on a couple options. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw something in the next couple of days, but the fact remains, as we're recording this on a Tuesday, the things they've done are the things they've done, and whether their philosophical view of running it back, if you will, is a good one or not remains to be seen. But
Yeah.
I give a little bit of latitude to this staff for what they were able to do over the last couple of years with that dead cap looming, being able to operate the way they have and win and be successful as much as they have. So they knew Dre Greenlaw was going to be gone. They knew JFM was going to be gone. So if you know all those things, you put together a plan based on knowing you're going to be lesser for it, and how do you move past it?
I think Nitro Zeus here in the chat, and thank you so much for watching, brings up a good point. For me, it wasn't about breaking the bank. It's about raising the floor of what wasn't good enough or hasn't been. They have a chance to still do that, but to fill weaknesses with rookies, I don't know. And I think that's where I'm at. Like when I said during my rant that I didn't want a big splashes, it's like this is some of the pushback that people like who are in my camp. Like this is the pushback that we're getting. It's like, oh, do you want him to overpay for this guy? Do you want him to overpay for this guy and like throw all this money? It's like, no, I have wanted Tyler Algier for a calendar year and a half. I wanted this team to trade for Tyler Algier last year, throw the Falcons a sixth round pick and get a seventh back at Tyler, something like that. So then when he became a free agent, and at first I think he had said something about that he wanted $9 or $10 million a year. And I was kind of in the mindset of like, yeah, the running backs are grossly underpaid for the most part. It's like, just give him what he wants. And I think he ends up signing for about 6 something mil a year. And like that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. And maybe he wanted to be in Arizona where, he's going to have to compete with 3 other guys and, it's a complete dumpster fire and they know who's going to be the quarterback that they really don't know. It's stuff like this, right? And so I'm not saying, oh, they should have gone out and spent, like all of that money on Devin Lloyd, even though I think it would have been worth it. And I think it definitely raises the floor of the team and it makes the defense better. But I'm talking about just like circumstantial guys like that. And I understand like we're just now starting to hit the second wave of free agency. And I guess that's how I'm coping right now. I don't want to have to wait until the draft to address these things. And I'm going to get your opinion on this. I'm going to go ahead and interrupt myself because this is a hill that I'm willing to die on, Ryan, and I want to get your thoughts on it. I have long thought that the draft needs to come before free agency. Free agency, you have a lot of people scrambling. They want to fill holes where they can. They have to overpay for people. Wouldn't it make more sense to have the draft first? You see what you get. You target certain position players. Maybe it lends itself more to like a BPA where you're like, okay, like we're not desperate right now because free agency is still on the horizon. So let's say, the Broncos add a Rodriguez during the draft or a CJ Allen, one of these inside linebackers. And, let's say that they add an additional receiver or a tight end, like maybe by hook or crooks, Kenyon Sadiq falls to them, or they add a tight end. Then that tends to change what they want to do in free agency. And so maybe they have a clearer picture. So real quick before we continue on, and then we'll just get your final thoughts. And I appreciate the time that you gave me. But am I crazy to think that the draft should go first before free agency? Like I know it'll never change, but doesn't it seem like it would make more sense?
Teams would love it. I don't think players would love it, especially vets. That a lot of their contracts are based on filling those holes before you're going to the draft to build your depth. And so, I mean, it's all part of your plan. And so, again, it would be a reframe, but it feels like, again, that if you did it that way, players might not get some of the bigger contracts because you knew what you already got in the draft. You knew what guys fell to you that were on cheaper contracts, and you didn't. Now you don't have to. So like, say you get Jeremiah Love, right? Like, let's say the Chiefs got Jeremiah Love. Well, now they don't have to give 14 million per to Kenneth Walker.
Right.
Like I'm
Mhm.
just like a very basic example. Now that doesn't mean Saints for the same reason, right? They get Travis Etienne, right? Well, if they get Jeremiah Love, well, they're certainly not going to now pay Travis Etienne 12 million per. So I
And
feel
now
like
neither of them are going to draft Jeremiah Love. So now the kid that doesn't have money, Ryan, since we're talking about the fat cat NFL players and the veterans who are going to be upset, this poor kid Jeremiah Love, who
yes,
definitely wasn't getting a whole bunch of NIL money,
yes,
is
I've
still
noticed.
the sudden going to suffer, and he's probably going to drop out of the top 10 all the way to 11. Ryan,
I've noticed how hungry he looks every time I've see him out there
he's
walking around.
starving.
He just looks like he's really struggling.
He's on a top ramen diet, dude.
Yeah,
He's living that college life.
we took up a collection at the combine for Jeremiah Love because we were so concerned about him. Now, like I said, I think the teams would absolutely love that, but I can't imagine the NFLPA would ever go for that because that'd be less money for their players. That's my short version.
Yep. I mean, that makes sense. And, I guess it's F logic because nothing that this league does, is can be confused as logical. Last thing, Ryan, again, I appreciate your time and I'll let you get out of here. And thank you so much for filling in last second. You're just the greatest human being that I've ever met. And I'm not just saying that. Where do we go from here? Like I've been reactionary.
Yeah.
I've calmed myself down. I turned off the red light. I took off my angry glasses. I threw them. I'm not sure where they are right now. If Ryan Edwards is calling the shots, if you're inside the mind of George Payton, how are we proceeding from here? Like maybe give me a couple names who you think are feasible targets for the Broncos at this point, and then what is roughly their draft strategy looking like?
Yeah, well, at this point with 11 draft picks, I'm trying to see if I can swing a couple of trades. Like that's one of my focuses here. Is you heard from Cliff today and he talked about how management is aware that they need more pop on offense, and so let's just roll with that for a second. I'd say I'm gonna see what the price tag is on AJ Brown. I'm gonna see if the Jaguars are changing their mind on BTJ. I'm gonna see if the Miami Dolphins suddenly are thinking, well, we're going to be run first. We don't really need a Jalen Waddle. I'm going to take a big swing. I'm going to try to swing for a receiver that is a true difference maker. I mean, there's some free agent guys out there. I'm not saying that they won't consider that, but that's one of the things I'm considering first. Secondly, I'm probably signing Dallas Goedert when he gets released tomorrow. I think Dallas Goedert is even at his age, I think he's a complete tight end for you, and that's exactly what you need. And that might mean you're moving on from Evan Ingram, but that's just part of the deal. The guy caught 11 touchdowns last year. That's a big deal, and I think he still has the capability for the next 3 years to be a good tight end for you. So those are two moves that I think you can make. I don't say with relative ease, but I think you can do that. The running back is you're probably going to draft somebody, so that's what it is. The offensive line's already said. I think everything else is more or less in line. I think now that you're just looking for some opportunities to take some real swings, and then you get to the draft. I'm a big BPA guy. People crush me for that. Even in the midst of the Broncos being in their narrow window, I'm a BPA guy. So if McNeil Warren's there, safety out of Toledo, especially now that PJ Locke's gone, I'm starting to think about the future. Brandon Jones is in the final year of his contract. Maybe I'm looking at offensive tackle because I know that my two offensive tackles are getting a bit long in the tooth. And I'm basically going to go to the draft with the mindset of having as much cost-controlled talent that is available to play this year, but isn't necessarily counted on because this team doesn't usually play their rookies heavy snaps anyways. I'm looking for those guys because that's just what the draft tends to be unless you're picking in the top 10. If you're picking at 30, you're waiting for everybody else anyways. So I'm probably going into it with a mindset. If I haven't traded off most of my premium picks, I'm going into that. You got to take a running back. You probably got to take a tight end at some point. You're gonna obviously take a look at the inside linebackers because it's a very good class for that. And those are probably where I'm spending my premium picks early on.
Are you worried that they might have to overdraft guys because maybe they didn't address the needs that they fully needed to in free agency?
I don't think so. I mean, you tend to go into the draft not panicking, especially if you're not, you're not in position to control your own destiny, like you're picking in the top of the draft, because you're picking so late. In fact, they might even be looking to trade back more than anything. I mean, maybe you get an opportunity to trade up for Sadiq, but I sort of doubt that. I think more than anything, you're gonna let the draft come to you. If somebody wants to pop in and get a Ty Simpson or something like that, all right, go for it. You know, multiply picks. I'd love to have more picks for next year's draft because I think it's rich in a lot of really good spots.
Agreed.
But you know that's probably more my mindset. I think I'm going to let everything come to me. You know, I mean, with the exception of right now where I think you can take some swings on offense and really improve this team, like markedly improve this team. And one last thing. I mean, you know, you mentioned how you just wanted like a small splash or ripple. You know, if they would have gotten Travis Etienne, like if they would have been able to complete that deal, which they had a lot of interest in him, I think the mindset would be a little bit different. Now you didn't get him, so
Sure.
we're on
Yeah.
the other side of this. But it's not like they're
Mm,
not trying. I think that there's a mindset from fans as though the Broncos are sitting on their hands and just allowing the only guys that they've already explored or had on the team to come back to them. There's active pursuit here, and that's not just lip service. I'm telling you, that's just what we know. So if they would have added, if they'd added Travis Etienne, I think there'd be a little bit of a different mindset because it'd be like, that's a dude. I think J.K. Dobbins can be a top 5 back in this league, but you're going to have to add some insurance, and you're certainly going to want to do that in the draft coming up with your guy Mike Washington.
I'm glad that you said him because I was literally going to ask you to give me just one name in the draft, and you already knew what was coming before I said it. You talk about attracting certain things. Ryan, you shine brighter than the sun, and that's why everything is attracted to you and just kind of orbits around you. Um, I'm not a big space guy. I'm pretty sure the sun is at the middle of our universe. And Ryan, you are certainly in the middle of mine. Thank you so much for joining me, man. I'm going to let you get out of here. Go ahead and plug, in case anybody's living under a rock, where can people hear your incredible voice and your unbelievable sports takes on the daily?
You're too kind. I love you, brother. Yeah, you
Love
can
you,
listen to
man.
me on KOA with Dave Logan weekdays from 3 to 6. So I appreciate you, brother. Thanks for the invite. It really means a lot that you think of me.
I'm thinking about you constantly. Have a great night, Ryan. Thank you so much, man.
Thanks, brother.
Friends, I do feel a little bit better, but I'm still upset. If I'm being perfectly honest, and I think if any of you are feeling the way that I'm feeling, that I want to hear it, and I want to lay this all out quite as simply as I can. And I'm going to reiterate some of the stuff that I was talking to with Ryan. I'm going to try to talk my way through it. But here's the thing. Yes, this team was one win away from going to the Super Bowl. They were a Bo Nix freak injury away from going to the Super Bowl. They damn near might have been a Bo Nix injury away from winning the Super Bowl. I know Seattle was a good team, but I felt like Denver would have matched up really well with them. And this is their window. This is it. Like, this is the time to take a swing. And the thing is, every team in the Broncos division got better and the Broncos got worse. I know that they were a 14-win team. They also had 12 one-score wins. That is not always sustainable. In fact, historically, that is not sustainable. The coaching staff knows that that is not sustainable. They have mentioned that they need to win games differently. Now, Patrick Chiotti and I were on this very show all throughout the season saying that it's more sustainable to win in these one-score games than it is to blow everybody out the way this team did in 2013, ultimately to lose in the Super Bowl. But the main thing that Pat and I have preached on this show for the entirety of the show itself is that you need to show growth as a team. They have exceeded expectations all 3 years that Sean Payton has been here. Sean Payton's first year when he took over with Russell Wilson, I don't know if people forget, like, they were in the thick of the playoff hunt until towards the end of the season. when, they lost in Houston, and then they lost, I think it was the Christmas game to New England. But that season, they exceeded expectations. And then there were zero expectations the following year with rookie quarterback Bo Nix. They won 10 games and went to the playoffs. And then this past year, the expectations were maybe you challenge for the AFC West, but the Chiefs are still there and the Chargers are good. Maybe you host the playoff game. They ended up getting the 1 seed. They were the best team in the AFC. They have exceeded expectations every single year that Sean Payton has been here. And I don't know if you're in the camp where you want to place blame on Sean Payton, you want to place blame on George Payton. I'm here to tell you there's enough blame to go around for both of them, just like there's enough praise to go around for both of them. Don't be so single-minded that every bad thing that happens is either George or Sean Payton's fault. Don't be so closed-minded and single-minded that everything good that happens is either George Payton or Sean Payton. George Payton has proved himself to be a good enough GM to this point. Sean Payton has proved himself to be a good enough head coach at this point. Should George Payton have done a lot of things differently? Yeah. Should Sean Payton have done a lot of things differently? Yeah. Should Sean Payton have given up play calling? We don't know. If it turns out to be a great decision and Davis Webb turns this offense into a top 10, top 5 perennial offense, then it was a great decision. If this offense struggles even more with penalties and clock issues and finding a rhythm than they did the last 2 seasons, it's going to be a terrible decision. All of this to say that all of the success that this team has had is not on one man, just like all of the failures of this team is not on one man. But if I'm being honest, if we're talking about this team as a whole, I don't know where it comes in versus offense and defense. I don't know how much input Sean Payton has on personnel on the defense. All I know is that they had a very real chance to raise the floor, and it would have been inexpensive at their biggest weakness, and that was the inside linebacker position. And what happened? They stood pat. They stayed exactly the same. And let me tell you why this really bothers me that nobody's really talking about. You lose a piece like John Franklin Meyer, which you knew you were going to. It was inevitable. I think we, in a delusional state of mind, held out hope that maybe they bring him back and they work it in there. But we knew that he was gone, right? How do you think that is going to impact our inside linebackers? I don't care how well they know the defense. At some point, you just have to be a better football player than what they have proven. And that's not to say that they're not good at football. That's not to say that they're not good linebackers. But when Ryan came on here and he said, you got Justin Sternad and Alex Singleton basically for the price of a Devin Lloyd. All right, I would take a Devin Lloyd. I would trade both of those guys for a Devin Lloyd, and then I would have given Leo Chenal the contract that he just got, which was basically $8 million a year. And so you're paying a little bit more for a Devin Lloyd, Leo Chenal combo versus a Justin Sternad, Alex Singleton. And the reason that I'm so concerned about JFM leaving, that is going to expose the inside linebackers more than it is going to help them. The Broncos had one of, if not the best defensive fronts in the entire league. Between Nick Bonito, Jonathan Cooper, Zach Allen, and JFM, unbelievable pressure rate. They all had at least 7.5 sacks. I think JFM had the fewest amount of sacks between the 4 of them as an interior pass rusher and had 7.5. I think he and Zach Allen were the leaders in interior defensive line duos in pressures. And you don't think that that's going to impact the linebackers somehow? I know we got him at a discount. But don't you get what you pay for? There are other people who do similar things to me on a professional level who do it for cheaper. And do you know why people come see me and pay more? Because I'm better than them. And I'm sorry that now I'm getting all fired up, and I understand that is going to sound really egotistical, but I have a lot of faith in myself and what I do, and I know that I'm really damn good at what I do, and I get paid accordingly. People get what they pay for. Would I rather go to Shanahan's or Elway's and have a steak, or am I good with the Big Mac and McDonald's? If I'm trying to save money, yeah, Big Mac's fine. If I'm hungry, it'll fix my hunger. But if I want something that I feel like I deserve, that's what I'm paying for. I'm going to go to Shanahan's and have a steak and a nice glass of red. Not a Big Mac and a Coke or whatever. What is it? The Arch is the new disgusting sandwich that the McDonald's CEO wouldn't even eat. That's how this feels. Mikey, respect my coast. Bam beat Kobe's record. Broncos rank Singleton on my team. We're taking a S in safety in round one. Who has it worse than me? Nobody has it worse than you, Mikey. Thank you so much for watching. Marky, tuning in. Appreciate you watching, man. But if you had the chance to get even better at what your weaknesses are, but you chose to just stay stagnant, then that's not a good thing. Absolutely. Absolutely. That is exactly what I'm talking about. And here is the perspective. And Marky, you are 100% right. You are dead on. Here's the thing. If the Broncos were in a season or in a year where they had to penny pinch and they had to get value like they were a couple of years ago, like Brandon Jones ended up being fantastic. He was bargain bin shopping. That's what Brandon Jones was when they signed him, and he turned out to be better than the player that they paid for. I did not expect the kind of production we got from Brandon Jones. I don't think they even expected quite what he brought. We are not in that realm right now. We are in win a Super Bowl mode. Do you guys understand that? Look at me. Look at me in my dumb face. Okay? We are in a Super Bowl window. Not a we're going to try hard window. Not a we're going to go out there and give it 110% window. People, this is why they play. This is why we're fans. To witness our team win a Super Bowl. The expectations for this fan base are high. Rightfully so. And that's exactly why people are so upset, because we have this golden opportunity potentially slipping through our fingers because they don't want to pay a little bit more on the open market. And again, like, I am a reasonable, logical person, and I do understand their approach. I do. And at the end of the day, it's a wait and see. For me, for all of you, for everybody. I pray that I am proven wrong. It doesn't happen very often, but if and when it does, I will stand on a mountaintop and say, I was dead wrong. I am so glad that I trusted this organization, that I trusted George Payton, that I trusted Sean Payton, that I trusted the powers that be to make the right decisions. But at the end of the day, a team that won 14 games, 12 of which were in one score wins, a lot of which were come from behind wins, a lot of things had to go right in order for them to win, they got worse. The Kansas City Chiefs, who had an admittedly down year last year and are not going to be the ninth overall pick probably ever again in the Mahomes era, they got better. Probably not on defense. They lost a lot of pieces on defense, but their offense got better. At the end of the day, that's all the Chiefs really care about. They got a running game for Patrick Mahomes. That was their biggest need. The LA Chargers got better. The Raiders, the Raiders, this is a predicament. If anybody knows what's going on, I would love for you to say in the comments. It's not about the physical. I get that Max Crosby, that the Ravens said that he didn't pass his physical, so the trade is not processing. But the Raiders thought that they traded Max Crosby, right? And I get like they had a lot of cap room, but I don't think they had this much. They went out and gave Tyler Linderbaum like twice as much money as the next highest paid center. They went out and they were living the Broncos dream. They got two starting linebackers who were vast improvements over the guys that they had. But all that money that the Raiders spent, what happens now that Max Crosby's contract is back on their books? Are they going to have to, honest question, if anybody knows this, I'm fascinated by this. Are they going to have to rescind any of the contracts that they signed or any of the free agent offers that they sent out because the Max Crosby contract is back on their books? And I think they have to be in the black by tomorrow, and you have to have a certain amount of money allocated for the draft. If anybody knows this, please tell me in the comments. Anyway, back to my original point. The Broncos are not in a position to stand pat. When you are a contender, a serious Super Bowl contender, and we can say that now. This time last year where we're trying to beef this team up, or even a couple months before the season when we're Pat and I tried to say We think that they can be a Super Bowl contender and they need to prove it, but they have the capability to do so. They're there now. Like I said, the expectations are incredibly high right now. But they got worse. They lost John Franklin Myers, they lost PJ Locke, and they haven't added anybody. And I'm glad that Mikey is watching this show because Mikey had pointed out that going into free agency, the team needs were running back, tight end, inside linebacker, and then I think he said wide receiver. And I think we all agreed on that. I did multiple shows with multiple different people where we acknowledged that and said, here's some of the free agents that they should be looking at. Here's some of the people in the draft that they should be looking at. Here are maybe some trades that they should think about doing. And now that we are, I mean, I guess technically free agency is tomorrow. We're in the legal tampering period, which is, it's hilarious that they have a legal tampering period because it means that teams were illegally tampering and they knew that. So they like moved up the date where they're like, all right, you can tamper, but it's legal. But that just means that the illegal tampering date starts sooner than it used to. Okay. The fact that like 2 minutes into the legal tampering date starting, and you're already getting contracts, and we're trying to be convinced that there's not illegal tampering, it's just hilarious to me. But you know who didn't illegally tamper, and maybe this is our silver lining, was the Denver Broncos. They sure as shit weren't illegally tampering. They didn't tamper with anybody. Odell said, oh, wow, maybe those tamper period contracts in Vegas will void, leaving a team like the Broncos available to swoop in and steal one of those linebackers. That was my thought. Odell, maybe, but are we too far gone? Like, are they just good with the room? That's what we keep getting told. And Markey says they're technically still in good shape for the cap. Exactly. So, like, they can do something. And you know what, Markey? Here's what I want them to do, and to everybody else. And Ryan had mentioned this, and someone in the comments, I tried to find it, but I'm trying to go back and forth because it's just me tonight, had asked about Jalen Waddle, and then Ryan had alluded to this. And here's another hill that I'm going to die on, and I tweeted about this recently, and I'm going to give it to y'all straight. I do not understand why more teams who have a definitive franchise quarterback do not trade their first-round picks for known commodities and rock-solid assets. The Rams kept doing it over and over and over again. Like, they gave up draft picks and Jared Goff for Matt Stafford. They gave up, I think, 2 first-round draft picks for Jalen Ramsey. They gave up, not a first-rounder, but I think, a second and a fourth or a third and a fourth or whatever it was for Von Miller. And I looked back at, like, the last 10 drafts. The Rams have made one selection in the first round in the last 10 drafts, and it was Jared freaking Verse. They had 2 picks going into this year. They used one of them to package a deal to go get Trent McDuffie, who is, like, as a need for that Rams team, is way better than any player that the Rams might have taken. So my argument here, if you are the Denver Broncos, you have your quarterback. He is on his rookie deal for at least one more year. You have no idea what looms at that 30th overall pick. And if you're watching this and you've gone through the mock drafts and you're trying to figure out who's going to be there, are you going to be satisfied with CJ Allen at 30? Are you going to be satisfied with Jacob Rodriguez at 30? And that's not a slight against either of those guys. I love both of those guys. Are you going to be satisfied with the safety from Toledo, McNeil Warren, who Ryan had mentioned? Or will you take the 30th overall pick, maybe package it with a couple of other picks, maybe throw in another player, and you call Minnesota and you say, hey, Minnesota, you're in cap hell right now. You're rebuilding. We'll throw the farm at you for Justin Jefferson. Or you call up Miami, you're a dumpster fire, okay? You just gave Malik Willis a bat. You're going to run the triple option. We'll give you the 30th overall pick and a 4th rounder for Jalen Waddle. And maybe we'll throw in like a special team or something like that maybe they want. Call Cincinnati, ask about T. Higgins. Call A.J. Brown, or call Philadelphia, ask about A.J. Brown. Just ask about him. And here's why I say that. First-round draft picks are like buying a brand new car. The minute that you drive it off the lot, it depreciates in value. Picks themselves are almost always, wildly more valuable than the picks themselves. And if you don't believe me, let's just go look back to last year, okay? last year's draft, how many players in that draft class actively right now would you say, hey, I would give him to you for a first-round pick, or I would give a first-round pick to you for him? Maybe Ashton Genty, maybe Travis Hunter, maybe Cam Ward, maybe Mason Graham, but I'm not sold. You know why? Because 90% of the time, the first round pick is worth more than the guy that you actually take with that pick. Do you think any team is calling up Denver saying, we'll give you, like Seattle has the 32nd pick. Do you think Seattle would call up Denver and say, we'll give you the 32nd pick for Jahdae Barron? No. And he was the 20th overall pick a year ago. They would get laughed out of their booths or wherever they're doing their work. So if you know definitively that there is a player who will not only raise your floor, but raise your ceiling and keep you in this competitive window, let's just say for the sake of argument, it's Jalen Waddle. There is not a player, and I have done more mock drafts than I care to admit to you people, because that's pretty much all I do in my spare time, because that's how I educate myself about a lot of these prospects. There is not a single player who will feasibly be available at 30 that I would rather have over Jalen Waddle. There is not a single player in this entire class. Take every single pick that the Broncos have. Throw it at Minnesota. Be like, you can have our entire draft class. Give us Justin Jefferson. I know long-term it's stupid. It's not stupid. Give me Justin Jefferson for whatever you want. Why? Because there is a better chance that Justin Jefferson makes this team and keeps this team as a Super Bowl contender than there is for every single one of those draft picks to hit, or for none of them to hit. If we're talking about ratios. Is it likely that every single draft pick the Broncos make in this next class is a bust? No, it's not likely. It's sure as shit possible. There have been a handful of draft classes that the Broncos have had recently where you would say, yeah, that class was 4 or 5 years ago. There's one dude still on the team from that draft class, and he's kind of just there. Draft picks are not as valuable as a lot of people make them out to be if you have your bona fide starting quarterback. Or you're picking in the top 5 or top 10, and you definitively know what kind of player that you are getting, and you think that he's an impact player right away. Ryan even said it. When you're talking about this draft class, they're going to go BPA. We've seen George Payton do it. We've seen Sean Payton do it. This is their MO. They did it last year with Jahdae Barron, and he played, I think, the third fewest snaps out of anybody in that first-round draft class. Maybe he plays more. Maybe he does more next year. You know who I would have rather had than Jahdae Barron at this current juncture? A bona fide stud at wide receiver who you can partner with Courtland Sutton, and then you have no idea who to stop as a defense, because that is a sure thing. Draft picks are never a sure thing. There has never in the history of the league been a guy where you're like, he can't miss. There were people that thought, and if you think there were and you want to say something like Peyton Manning, more people thought Ryan Leaf would be successful than Peyton Manning. People don't know shit. People like Mel Kiper, who dedicate their entire lives to this, are right about 20% of the time. They're basically weathermen in Colorado. They're just throwing shit against the wall and hoping that it sticks. So if you're giving me a choice between that in terms of a player or a developed bona fide stud who you already know what you're getting, give me the developed bona fide stud 100% of the time. I'm going to go through the comments really quick. Jan Ash, SGBC, Tamu, Juna, fan. That is a lot. Bo Nix is good, but most games Denver almost lost. Nix had to will himself to win in the last minute of the game. Can't keep doing this. Schedule's much harder now. Defenses will go after Nix. Agree with everything you said. The way that they want, the amount of games that they won, the way that they won it is not sustainable. As I said earlier, it's more sustainable than blowing out a team every week like they did in 2013. But you're right, it's not sustainable. And I'm not going to compare it to the Chiefs the year before because, they were obviously in the pocket, or the officials were in the pocket of the Chiefs, and a lot of goofy shit happened for them to win those games. Like, what the Broncos did was way more legitimate than the way that the Chiefs won games. But this comment is correct. And it's why I'm making such a big deal out of this team not actively getting better. And again, it's because of the expectations. I expect more from the inside linebacker position. I expect more from the wide receiver position. I expect more from the tight end, more from the running back position. Because if we are going to be a legit Super Bowl contender, you can't just stay here. And then like even down a little bit. Every single year since Sean Payton has gotten here, they've trended upwards. And this is the first time, as it stands right now, that the team is currently trending down. And I guess I can preach patience because there is plenty of time left. But there were a hell of a lot of good players that they could have afforded and easily brought in to raise the floor and raise the ceiling of this team. And they were just priced out. You were in on Devin Lloyd. And then he got priced out. He cost a little. It was a little rich for their blood, and they pivoted and went back to Alex Singleton. That's a fact. They were in on Travis Etienne, just like Ryan said. Travis, I don't know. Whichever Etienne is the good one. My brain is fried. It's whatever Etienne was the good one. Okay? They were all in on him, and you know what happened? I know we wanted to go back home to New Orleans, but they offered him a little bit more. You don't think that Etienne would have chosen the Broncos? You get into a bidding war. We have the richest owners in the league by a really wide margin, and we're going to pinch pennies and not get into bidding wars and not win the bidding wars? So they lose out on Travis Etienne, Trevor Etienne, whatever Etienne, and they pivot and they go back to J.K. Dobbins. What bothers me isn't that they're retaining guys, is that these were all plan Bs. Ryan said that they were in on Cade Otton, but they figured he would go back to Tampa Bay. You couldn't offer him a little bit more money and convince him to come here? Money talks. I talk to these players. I've talked to these players almost my entire life. I have worked with these players my entire professional career. Do you have any idea how often a guy will go to some shithole like Cleveland because they offered him $500,000 more than another team in LA or Arizona or Colorado or Florida, like any sort of destination that's better? And they should. These guys have a really small window to make money. And you're telling me with our current financial situation, they were willing to throw $2-3 more million at some of these guys? That you can miss out on a guy like Devin Lloyd, a guy like Travis or Trevor Etienne, that you can miss out on a guy like Leo Chenal, that you can miss out on a guy like Isaiah Likely because you don't want to get into a bidding war and you want to convince yourself that you're fine with what you have. You are fine with what you have. And that's the problem. It's fine. It's only fine. It's not good. It's not great. It's not exceptional. It's fine. Super Bowl contenders are not fine. They are great. They are extraordinary. Don't be okay with fine. Fine is what got us into the 10-year conundrum where we just existed in mediocrity. All of that was just fine. Those teams were fine. This team is not fine. This organization should not be fine. Don't you dare settle for fine. You as a fan deserve better. I as a fan deserve better. Their teammates, the Bronco players, deserve better. And they are running out of time to do better. Don't be okay with fine. Not when your team was a fluke injury away from potentially winning the Super Bowl. Don't be okay with that. Don't convince people. Don't let people convince you that that's okay. That's not okay. You're talking about a team that you have rooted for and watched your entire life, every freaking Sunday for as long as you can remember, and you want people to look you dead in your face and be like, what we did was fine. They're fine. They're average. That's why I'm upset. At the end of the day, Like, I knew not to get my hopes up because this happens all of the time. And it didn't help that Patrick Chiotti and I did a show where we used that GM tool and we went through like all the feasible things that we could do. And I know it wasn't realistic. And that's why I got my hopes up. And that's why I allowed them to be dashed. Because I expected more. Because I'm entitled to expect more. You're entitled to expect more. Don't let people make you feel bad for expecting more from your football team. You as a fan are entitled to that. Now, don't do some crazy shit like people were saying, like where you're flooding Alex Singleton's and Adam Troutman's Twitters and want them to not like that's idiotic. That's for Raiders fans. That's for Chiefs fans. That's for less educated fans. Don't do that. But make your voice heard. Don't let someone tell you, like, just be a fan. Just be a fan. You are a fan by demanding more from your team. It's okay. That's what being a fan is all about. And again, I hope and pray that I am wrong and that whatever ends up happening, like them standing pat is somehow, some way the best thing for them. And like I said, if I end up being wrong, I will stand at the top of the mountain and shout it from a megaphone. I was wrong and I should have trusted the process. But it's still not good enough for me. As we stand here today on, it's Mario Day, on March 10th, 2026, MAR10, it's Mario Day, and you got me in a bad mood simply because I let my expectations get too high. So where do we go from here, Bronco fans? How do we cope with how we are feeling right now? I'm going to do my best. There is still time, like Ryan said, to go out and get a Dallas Goedert. Maybe they go out and get a David Njoku. Maybe tomorrow they sign a Chris Rodriguez to shore up the running back room. Because here's what scares me. I understand wanting to address things in the draft. And I love Mike Washington, and I think that he should be a target. What if Mike Washington goes where you don't have a chance to take him? I love Michael Tribb. I love Oscar Delp. I love Nowatzki. I think the kid, I don't know how to pronounce his name, the kid out of Indiana. There's a lot of tight ends that I like. But what if the guys that they really like, what if they're gone before the Broncos have a chance to pick them? What if you're sitting there at 30 and you're like, you know what? We couldn't get a deal done for Jalen Waddle, but we really like Omar Cooper Jr. And he goes before 30. What if you really like Chris Bell, but you don't want to invest a first-round draft pick in him? But he goes before you take him at 62 and you can't trade up for him? All this to say that if you have holes to fill, you can't do that in the draft. The draft is where you shore up your future if you're going to make those draft picks, or you improve your present and you do what I was saying and you trade the picks for bona fide studs. Thank you, Frankie. You're a bona fide stud too, even though you're a trash-ass Milwaukee fan. Giannis hates Milwaukee, and he hates you, Frankie. Anyway, if that is their process, I'm a little hesitant. Not because I don't trust them when it comes to drafting talent. I think for the most part, George Payton has hit more than he has missed. And I think before we get too judgmental about last year's draft class, you have to give it some time. But again, like, this is not the mindset of a championship contender. Now, if they go out and they get Dallas Goedert and they sign Chris Rodriguez and I don't even know what inside linebackers are still available. Like Ellis was available, and he got one more extra $1 million per year than Alex Singleton. Alex Singleton better be a whole hell of a lot better than him. If that was the decision that we made, again, Leo Chenal, I think, got $2 more $1 million per year than Alex Singleton. Alex Singleton better go out and be just as good as Leo Chenal, because that's who we chose over Chenal, over Ellis, over Devin Lloyd, over like this unbelievably rich class. There's another thing. Sorry that I'm interrupting myself, but it's all kind of coming to me. This was a really good free agency for running backs. This was a really good free agency for inside linebackers. And this was a pretty good free agency for tight ends. He didn't add any of them to this point. Now, again, there's still time, but like they need to do more because you cannot rely solely on the draft to fill the rest of these holes. You can't go into the draft saying like, oh, we're going to get our number 3 running back that's going to complete our stable. You can't do it because what if you miss out on a Mike Washington or a Jadarian Price or whoever they might be targeting? Then you're kind of up Schitt's Creek without a paddle, right? Yeah. So to wrap this up and in summation, I just want to tell you all, it's okay to be upset. In fact, it's a good thing that you're upset. You know why? Because it means that you care. If you didn't give a shit about this team and whether or not they're successful and whether or not they win, you wouldn't be upset. You'd just be like, that's okay. I'm just a little filthy casual anyway. I don't really know anything about ball. And, I kind of have it on in the background and I play on my phone while I'm watching Broncos games. And you can be that kind of fan. But the fact that people are passionate and the fact that people are upset and the fact that they are not satisfied doesn't mean they're a bad fan. It means they're a good fan. It means they're a really good fan. Maybe not always the most educated when it comes to certain things, but the passion is there. Then don't ever be one of those people that's like, you just got to trust the front office. They know better. There have been plenty of times on all 32 teams that they have done some dumb shit that I never would have done. Are there also times that they've done something really smart and something that I wouldn't have done? Yeah. But I'm also not getting paid tens of millions of dollars to make decisions like that. So don't hit me with this bull crap of, oh, leave it to the professionals. No. See, that's not what being a fan is about either. You're entitled to have a voice, and you're entitled to have an opinion. And you damn well sure should. This is your team. This is my team. This is all of our teams. Be passionate. Pound the table for what you want. Don't get so out of pocket that, you insult somebody and then they tweet you back, Mikey. But then they deleted their tweet, so it's okay. Before I get out of here, I got to get caught up on some of these comments. Bronco Scyther. Oh, that's one of my top 10 favorite Pokemon. Right on, man. Like the passion, kudos, subscribe. Appreciate you. If you're listening, you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Greatly appreciated. You can see me and Patrick, usually Patrick, do an altitude adjustment Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. Going to start doing some more short form content for you guys as well. And also there's the Let's Talk Broncos podcast with Zach, Joey, and Bree. They all do an incredible job. And then Full Field Read with Frankie and Robbie, usually on Fridays during the season. Thank you all so much for subscribing. Jordan said they're not going to make any moves in free agency. They're focused on the draft. That is sad. We'll see. It appears like, they didn't do anything in the first wave of free agency. We're technically in the second wave. Some stuff will happen tomorrow in terms of people being released. Maybe Dallas Goedert is a viable option, and that will change my mind a little bit because then you are improving the team. You are helping both in the short term. Like maybe you give him a 2 or 3 year contract. Like Goddard's not going to be around that much longer, but he would be a welcome addition to this team. Somebody like that. Again, Chris Rodriguez is another guy that I have my eye on. To my knowledge, he wasn't tendered. David, we're wasting Bo Nix's prime. That's my problem, David. And that's why I feel upset. And I think that's why a lot of people are upset this is Bo's prime. Like, that's why, like, this is the window. This is what I keep talking about. Like, this is why my expectations are high. Go get him another stud wide receiver. Go get him a really good pass catching tight end. I know you tried last year. You kind of struck out, or maybe because Evan Ingram is Davis Webb's guy, like he'll be better next year, or maybe that's just how Evan Ingram is. You tried last year. Just because you struck out one time doesn't mean you don't keep swinging for the fences, man. Go get Bo some help. David goes on to say, we're making him do everything like we made Elway till the end. 100%. And isn't that crazy, David? And I'm glad that you brought that up. Like, look at this team last year. Like, Cortland Sutton had himself a good season. Troy Franklin took that next step. He had himself a really good season. J.K. Dobbins was having a really good season until he got hurt. R.J. Harvey was solid. Pat Bryant showed some flashes. But really, like, if you kind of look individually at this team, it doesn't really strike you as like the number one seed in the AFC, right? But they were. There was a time period where they led the league in punts, but they just kept winning games. It was like how the Colorado Avalanche were, or still are, the number one team in the NHL by a pretty wide margin, and they had like the worst power play in the entire league. It's like this stuff just wasn't making sense. And I think you're right, David. Like, Bo had to do pretty much everything. And the defense, for the most part, got stops when they needed to, and some guys stepped up. But that was Bo. Bo has that it factor where at the end of the game, you put the ball in his hands and he is going to win you the game, or he's at least going to put you in the position to win. And that's all he did last year. So why not make it easier on him? And you're right, David. They didn't give Elway any help, like any prominent help, until he had a Terrell Davis, until Shannon Sharp kind of became Shannon Sharp and Rod Smith and Ed McCaffrey, and the defense was phenomenal. Take some pressure off of Bo. Can you imagine how good Bo is going to be if you get him some help? Like a couple more weapons? Mile High Matty, be upset. But since Sean Payton arrived in Denver, they have been right about just about everything. Agree to disagree on that one, Matty, but I appreciate you and thank you for allowing me to be upset. And again, thank you for watching. Marky says, and that's exactly why the people on Twitter that are like, we won 14 games. Why wouldn't you want the same guys? Drives me crazy. Where's the passion to improve? Thank you. We have higher expectations. Maybe it's irrational, but that's the fun part, right? Having irrational expectations. And here's what I will tell you. As the number one seed and as the team that won their division, they will have a number one seed schedule. They will play against all the other division winners. Their schedule, as it stands today, and I know a lot of things can change and teams can change, their schedule is going to be much harder this upcoming season than it was last year. And why wouldn't you want to improve? Like, yes, this team was good enough to go to the AFC Championship game. But was it good enough for you? Are your expectations to be good enough? Are your expectations to be fine? Or are your expectations to be champions? To be able to say for an entire year, my team won the Super Bowl. What all the Seahawks fans get to do right now, what all those stupid-ass Chiefs fans got to do for so many years. You get to say for an entire season, my team won the Super Bowl. You have bragging rights for a year, and nobody can tell you shit. Don't you want that? How could you not want that? There is nothing better. That is the whole point of watching sports. To root for your team and maybe by chance get to see them win the Lombardi Trophy or win the Stanley Cup or win the President's Trophy. No, that's also hockey. The weird World Series trophy with the flags. That's what we watch for. You want your team to win a championship. They haven't done enough yet. Maybe they will, but where we stand right now, it's not enough. Big E Bronco, I'm starting to wonder if Walmart gave the Broncos a budget, the maximum they can spend on players this year, so they decided to re-sign everybody they have. What I will say about this, Big E, ain't no budget with these owners, okay? You guys remember like the first year that they were owners, in the very last game of the season, they were playing the Chargers in what was a meaningless game in terms of seeding. They resodded the whole field, and they dropped $400,000 on that thing like it was nothing for one game that had no implications whatsoever. So, Big E, I appreciate the attempt to cope. I feel what you're doing. That ain't it. I guarantee you that ain't it. And these people are used to winning at everything that they ever do. They didn't buy a football team just because. They want it to be an investment, and they know that they get a return on their investment if their team freaking wins, and they have one. And they would like them to continue winning and keep getting better and better, because the better your team is, the more you win. The more you win, the more fans go. The more fans go, the more money they make. And at the end of the day, that's all they really care about, isn't it? They're wrong about Troutman and Singleton. I'll tell you that. I agree, David. They are good, not great. They are fine. And you know how I feel about that. Ty, what's up, man? I'm so glad for you to be watching. It's good to see you in here. It's honestly fine that there's some that are worried, but you know what the best thing is? We aren't overpaying for these players. I guess that's a silver lining, man. I would rather overpay a little bit for better players who I know would make this team better, but that's just me. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thank you all so much for indulging me and really for being my therapy. Hopefully, I was able to be as therapeutic for you as you all have been and as Ryan was for me. Even though I'm still upset and I'm still disappointed, tomorrow is a new day. I really would have liked the Broncos to do something fun on Mario Day, but I guess I can't have my cake and eat it too, right? But at the end of the day, like I love this team more than anything. I have a deep, passionate love for this team, and it's why I do this show, to share that passion with you all, and it's why I feel the way that I feel. Am I ever going to root against this team? Absolutely not. Am I going to root for guys like Alex Singleton and Adam Trautman to fail? Absolutely not. I hope that Adam Trautman goes out there and catches 10 touchdowns. I hope that Alex Singleton goes out there and has more than 3 TFLs than last year. Oops, sorry, that was a little snarky. I hope that he has, is responsible for 10 turnovers and 10 sacks and has 100 tackles, for the second time in his career. I will always root for my guys, unless they go and sign a piece of shit like Tyreek Hill or Stephon Diggs. Then I will not be rooting for that individual. I'll root for everybody else. All this to say that, once the season gets going and training camp is here, I'm locked in. I mean, shit, I'll be locked in by next week. I'll be better. I'll be able to drink enough orange Kool-Aid and do the kind of mental gymnastics that it takes me to get to the point to convince myself that they're going to be a Super Bowl contender once again, because that's the fan in me. Not the over-analytical, over-critical fan that I am being right now. The logical, reasonable fan. No, I will be the illogical, unreasonable fan, where I'm going to shout in everybody's face that it doesn't matter that they brought back Alex Singleton. It doesn't matter that they brought back Adam Trautman. It doesn't matter that they didn't go get ETN, or they didn't go get Devin Lloyd, or they didn't go get this guy, that guy, because we got Bo Nix, baby. Bo Nix is going to ride into the sunset and win us 3 Super Bowls in a row. I'm ready to be that irrational fan, but mentally I'm not there. My heart's there, my head's not there. But we will get there all together soon. And hopefully, by the next time I do this show in a week, we will have something really exciting to talk about. And I won't have to start the show with my angry glasses on and the red lighting and everything's looking real ominous. I have a feeling that next week is going to be a lot better. And that is my last bit of copium for the night. Thank you. I love you all so much. I appreciate every single one of you watching. Again, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. I love and appreciate all of you, even the people that are hate watching. And I know that you're out there. Just know that the more that you hate me, the more that I love you. And I appreciate having you as a fan. Coach, how did I do tonight?
Gosh, your own little internet shows are driving me crazy.
Driving me crazy because you didn't do shit during the first wave of free agency. My name's Mario, and this is Altitude Adjustment. I'll see y'all next week, everybody. Goodbye.
Hey, feel I'm in the mood for a switch up. I hit the function, hit the rose till I hiccup. I hit the stage and leave with money that's a stick up.